Hey everyone, it's Robin Cavallaro, and it's now the Robin Cavallaro Group, a Remax Realty Group. I gotta get used to saying that. It's tough. We didn't change brokerages, just changed names. So yes, little tweak a month ago. And today I have one of my favorite people with Eagle Title with me. She does all the stuff behind the scenes and keeps me completely safe and sane and out of trouble. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And unbeknownst to me, after all these years we've been working together, you're also a military spouse.
I am going on 18 years of being a military spouse. 18
Ah.
years. Yeah, we're in the home stretch.
So is he Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines?
So
Uh,
Taylor is actually in the Marine Corps. He's been
oh,
in he's been in 19 and a half, and we are gunning for the 20, but him and I have been married for going on 18. But we're in the
ah.
home stretch days of retirement. It's on the
Yay.
horizon.
Yeah, it's a whole different life too when they retire.
I'm looking
Completely
forward
different.
to it. I'm looking forward to it. A little bit nervous for what's ahead, but very excited for the next chapter. The kids are excited. We are ready.
Yes. And little fun fact, even though Eagle Title is here in Annapolis and they've been expanding their footprint quickly and quietly,
Yeah.
you're sitting in Tennessee. So,
I am sitting in Tennessee. Um, Eagle Title has been amazing. We were stationed at Fort Meade in Maryland for 5 years, where I luckily found Eagle Title, and they've become just a family. When we got our orders
mhm,
back to California, it was kind of in the midst of COVID and here or there, but Eagle Title reached out and said, "You're still going to work for us, right?" And I said, "Absolutely."
yeah.
So that was the best thing that could have ever happened, was getting to keep my job and work with my amazing team at Eagle in the midst of being a military wife and PCSing.
Yes, and you saved my little tookus last week because I was trying to keep a deal together and everyone else had gone home and you're like, hey, no problem. Here comes Super Amy.
Yeah.
Boom, done. Feels okay. And I'm beyond grateful for that. So
We are glad we could help.
yes. So why Tennessee? Is that where you're from or?
So Taylor's home of record is he's born and raised from Tennessee, and this was always the dream. As you know, often plans change in the military, so we always had plans to retire in Tennessee. We had the kids and I decided we had orders to California where we were, and Taylor was set to do his last deployment, and the kids and I went ahead and made the transition ahead of time to Tennessee. Of course, in those last stages of your last years in retirement and so forth in months, they're so focused on outbound processing, and the kids are at the age where they're getting set into middle school and high school, that we made the move to be closer to family. I'm originally from San Diego, where I met him years ago,
Oh.
but I was excited to forever be done with California living. I was ready.
I can't get over the prices in San Diego. I've got a couple
Insane.
of friends. Oh my God, I've got a couple of friends there that are realtors, and they're posting these little teeny tiny houses that we sell for 400,000 and 500,000 for over $1 million.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The house that we grew up in was a small little home, that's now probably worth over $1 million, just because of where it's at and in that school district. And we still have some friends that I graduated with that live and bought years and years ago and kind of grandfathered in. But just moving away and being gone for so long when we got our first set of orders and then getting orders back, everything had changed, and I knew it wasn't where I wanted to be 100%. Not where I
Yeah,
wanted to raise my kids.
no, it's tough because I remember my kids were getting ready to start ninth and 11th grade, and my ex was up for orders, and he was also had the potential to make captain, which that's an '06 in the Coast Guard. I don't know what that is in the Marines, but I told him the kids and I are not moving.
Yeah.
I could not do that to them one more time especially for a girl, her last 2 years of high school.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's
It's,
tough.
and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand is, the person who's serving, which God bless you, because I've said this a gazillion times. There was no name, no way my name was going on that blank check. There was no way I'm giving up my nails. I'm not, it's like my mama raised me where you don't walk out the house without makeup on.
Yeah.
So I can just see that in the field going, excuse me, do you mind if I fix my eyeliner real quick? They're like, girl, no. Seriously, I would have made Private Benjamin look good. So yeah, I own it. At the same time, and you and I were talking about this before, people say you know what you're signing up for. No, you don't. You don't know what it's like to have to say, okay, you got to find a new job, you have to start a new business, your career is changing, you've got to go to a new place where you're suddenly going to be the bottom of where you're
Yep.
starting,
Yep.
and your
Um,
kids have to walk away from friends.
Yep. Taylor, when we had first met, he only had 2 years left on that contract.
Yeah.
And we were set to go to Tennessee. We had talked about it when we
Yeah.
first met, like, oh, great, whisk me out of the city and take me to the country. And then it became, okay, well, we're looking at a longer picture. And it was about 2008 when the market had crashed and everything was crazy. And it was like, well, this is our future. This is a paycheck. It's health
Yeah.
insurance. It's, steady income for family. And so he decided to reenlist. And then you know how that goes. Okay, well, we've already done, 8, 9 years. Let's reenlist again. And then before you know it, you're at a career.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what I was signing up for because originally it was supposed to be a 2 year plan, which has now turned into an 18, 19 year plan. So it's been quite a journey. I have loved it. I've hated it. I've stuck with it, but I am so grateful for it and the opportunities. It has not only benefited myself, but the kids as well.
Yeah.
To see them grow as hard as it is during some of those PCSs, but to be able to make some of those friendships, adapt, um, try new things, the opportunities that they've been given amongst some of their peers is pretty neat. And I sometimes have to remind them of that. As hard as it is, we can do hard things. And so just keep going.
And that's the thing, is like the family unit has to be strong. And if it is, you can get through anything. Um,
Absolutely. I agree.
and again, back in 2008, there's no way on God's green earth I would have willingly allowed my ex to get out of the Coast Guard, because it was a steady paycheck. It was guaranteed income. It was guaranteed medical care.
Yep.
And back then, it's like you're watching the unemployment numbers just skyrocket. Like, oh my God, is there ever going to be an end to this?
Yeah.
Eh,
Yep, it was pretty scary. I worked in real estate when I was in San Diego when I had first started
eh,
out there. I was an escrow assistant. But I remember just the 2008 and when everything crashed and just the massive amounts of layoffs and all of the foreclosures that were coming through. And it was just some scary, uncertain times, not knowing which way it was going to go.
Yeah. And me and my infinite wisdom, we got to Connecticut in 2006. And so I decided I was going to get my real estate license.
Hmm.
I started in January of '07. The market up there crashed in October of '06. So but I cut my teeth in short sales, foreclosures, and as I refer to it, the best buyer's market ever.
Yeah.
So, it's like attitude's everything. Um, so we'll twist it a little bit to real estate. One of the questions I get all the time is, why do I have to have title insurance?
Why not have title insurance? You
Yeah,
are protecting the biggest investment that
yeah.
you will ever make. I mean, to be able to purchase real estate and not have that protected, it's not something that I would ever do without. The importance of it's a one-time thing that you can purchase when you buy the home, and it is so worth it. And that peace of mind with all of the fraud these days and all of the things that could crop up, to have title insurance and know that you're protected, it's not something I would do without. It's definitely, yeah, protect your biggest investment by far.
Well, and there's been so many stories, and I know there was one local-ish, and this is going back probably at least 10, 15 years now. And I'm going to use fake names just to not get too deep into the woods. But John Smith had married Mary Smith originally. They bought the house together, got divorced. Well, he fell in love with another Mary, married her. They go to the settlement table to sell the house. Mary number two signs for Mary number one.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely horror stories that could be told for days.
Yes.
So again, it just goes back to, I mean, anything can crop up on a chain of title that we are completely unaware of, although we do our absolute best, and our abstractors and the people that we work with are incredible at what they do. We have a fantastic underwriting department that is amazing. And like I said, though, just to have title insurance and know that you're covered is peace of mind for your biggest investment. And again, it goes for the entire time that you own the home, to have owner's title insurance. So it's definitely important, to make sure you're protected by far.
Y'all saved a client of mine, it was a buyer, from a major, major, major nightmare. And what happened is the sellers were flipping the house. They were in a lawsuit with the neighbor because of the way they did grading, it was causing the neighbor's yard to flood every time it rained. But the way the settlement stated, and y'all found it, was that the seller was only responsible for the repair as long as they were the owner.
Okay.
So all of
Um,
a sudden, we had to get their attorney to redraft it to state that the seller was indefinitely responsible for that repair, because otherwise my buyer was taking on the responsibilities of that lawsuit.
yep. And that again is the importance of title insurance, making sure you have a great title company that you work with, and just great abstractors that can do thorough deep dives into this, which Eagle does a fantastic job. We definitely go to bat for our clients across the board, and we just want to make sure that everything's transparent, that everybody's protected, that everything is brought to light so that people are well knowledged in what they're, making sure that what they're purchasing, that they, are familiar, that nothing is left unscathed.
Absolutely. And, plus y'all are connected to a law firm. So when people go, well, I want an attorney, I'm like,
We
you
got you
got one.
covered. Liv Walsh and
Actually, you got more
Simmons.
than one. You got an entire department.
We do. We have a fantastic workforce at
Yeah.
Liv Walsh and Simmons Eagle Title. And I just feel like there's somebody, whichever corner you turn, somebody is going to have knowledge or experience in something that's needed. I mean, what we can cover is phenomenal.
And I love the fact that y'all use Qualia, which I know, guys, I'm getting deep into the woods, but just trust me. Because that way my clients aren't writing their social security number on a piece of paper, scanning it and emailing it, that could put them at risk for identity theft.
Yep, absolutely. So Qualia is our platform that we use that's integrated, so that buyers and sellers and agents can import all of their transaction specific information, personal information. It allows you to put those social security numbers, those loan numbers, those payoffs, those account numbers, super private information. It allows you to import that directly. So it's not passing through hands and just unsecured emails or things like that. So I know that those tasks can sometimes be a little pesky when it comes through all those emails, but we're really doing it for the protection and the benefit of the consumer, to make sure that they are fully covered as much as possible. We just want to protect all that private information.
Absolutely. And one of the things I ran into a few years ago, and this was something I didn't know at the time, I had a client trying to sell his parents' house. Well, his dad had dementia,
Mhm.
and his mom was struggling, but the title company would not take his general power of attorney. They wanted a specific one. It's like, how do you get a specific one when you have for the property when you have a guy sitting there with dementia that doesn't even remember his name, much less where he lives.
Right. So in
Yeah.
cases like that, when you're dealing with parents or family members or friends that have dementia, we definitely need to take further steps to make sure that that they're covered. And it could be that we need like a medical power of attorney. We might require doctor's notes. It's really going to be up to what the underwriter's requiring and what we can review for our file. But we do take the best steps forward to make sure that we're checking all of our boxes and making sure that these are the people that are selling the home. You know, you can deal with elderly fraud and things like that these days. So you want to make sure that even though John Smith is selling the parents for Mary or selling the home for his parents, Mary and Joe, that Mary and Joe are protected. And we just want to make sure we'll do an alive and well check. We will try to reach out and make sure we have a live person. And then sometimes too, sellers will use power of attorneys just because they're out of the country or they're not going to be present for settlement. So we kind of want to do a deep dive and see why they're not going to be here. We know we deal in our community a lot with elderly that might be at the nursing home, and sometimes it's just they can't get from the nursing home to our office. But we are so happy to send a settlement officer or a closer to go meet with them because it just makes it a little bit more efficient and takes out that extra step of having a power of attorney. So sometimes even when they think a power of attorney is needed, we might not need one.
Yeah. And I appreciate that because y'all have gone to some very strange places to do settlements for me. Terry stood there at a kitchen counter, no furniture in the house, but the buyer was so excited to be in the house and they didn't want to have to leave it to go somewhere else. And so Terry's like, that's fine. We stood at the kitchen counter, they signed, and I was like, awesome.
Yeah, we make it work wherever we can get to you, whatever we definitely try to make it as easy as possible on our parties for these transactions. And we definitely, I have seen some go the extra mile, and that's what we love to do. I remember during COVID, we were signing people in the parking lot on the hoods of cars because we wanted people to still buy their homes and you know close that next chapter, but do it safely as well. But we've definitely gotten creative.
There was one time, and I think it was like November, it was cold outside. And my seller was like 80-ish. She was elderly, not in the best of health, and she was selling a house. And so Terry drove down to Lusby, even though the house was in Temple Hills. And the daughter set up a big folding table outside. Terry sat at this side. The mom sat at this side. She put on the mask and the gloves, and she would carry the papers from one to the other. And so her mom could sign them
Yeah.
just to sell this house. And I was like, dang. You know, they did turn on a little heater outside so nobody could. But
Oh, yeah, we creativity is definitely a specialty. We'll make it work.
and I think back to all that stuff with COVID. I'm like, dear God, how did we survive this? Um, yeah, but we did. We did.
We did. We
And
definitely did.
so, but with military, it's so frequent that the service member is not present.
That's correct. That's
Or in a lot of cases too, they've already got orders, so they've shown up here, but the spouse is staying at the old duty station until they can get the keys to the house. So in those cases, I deal with power of attorney more times than I care not to.
Yep, absolutely. So the best steps going forward
Yeah.
when you are PCSing and or buying or
Yeah.
selling a home, making sure all your paperwork is secure, trying to get ahead of it if you know you're going into purchasing or selling a home. Easier said than done sometimes, especially when you have service members overseas and so forth. Making sure that power of attorneys, you can definitely go to your JAG or your commanding officer and have those power of attorneys done for the military spouse, especially if we have a spouse, let's say in Texas, and the active duty member's already here. That active duty member can have the spouse's power of attorney. or vice versa, if somebody's overseas and a spouse is in Texas and one is in Okinawa, we can definitely make arrangements. If you guys have a power of attorney, buyers or sellers, and send somebody mobile notary. We have a nationwide mobile notary service that can meet clients anywhere that's needed in the United States. We can send somebody to you. Just making sure that the paperwork is done, making sure too, a known fact that some aren't aware of is that military that are sellers in the state of Maryland, whose home of record is another state, but might have been stationed in Maryland for 6 years. It doesn't make you an automatic resident of the state of Maryland if your home is domiciled somewhere else. So you would have to fill out what's called the withholding exemption. So I'm sure you've run into this a
Yes.
time or two.
Yeah.
So that withholding exemption, it's 2 out of the 5 years that you have to be a Maryland resident or an in-state resident. But if you're filing your state income taxes in another state or your home of record is somewhere else, you have to apply with the exemption. It's 21 days from the date of closing. Sometimes they can give a little inch, but not much. Especially during peak PCS season where the comptroller can get a little bit more backed up. But definitely filing that ahead of time can definitely keep you a little bit more prepared to getting the exemption so that we're not running into any withholding issues. There's a little military box that you can check and you submit it with your orders and your LES and a couple other things. And so definitely knowing the more knowledge that you have and the more prepared is going to make your PCS way more smooth. But just know that like Eagle Title, we've got you covered and we can meet you anywhere.
Yes,
that
and
you
you have.
yeah.
And the other part that people don't understand, I run into this a lot of why do I have to give you that? If you're divorced or separated, you gotta hand over those separation papers.
Correct. We do. Our underwriter does a thorough review, and we need to make sure that we're in compliance with those separation or marital settlement agreements. That we make sure if the home is being sold, that there aren't any payouts, or if there are, that we're in compliance with that from the proceeds of the home. So, along with trust information too, if you're buying or selling the home in a trust, we're going to require a copy of your trust so that we can review and make sure that we can lend or sell and who can sign. And it just goes back to protecting the consumer again and making sure that we're not only in compliance, but that you don't have somebody acting on behalf of a trust, purchasing or selling a home that shouldn't be. And same with marital separation agreement, making sure that we're complying with that, that husbands or ex-wives or ex-spouses, that, they're protected as well. We do it for the benefit of the consumer.
Yeah, I mean, anytime there's a legal document involved, other than, well, even marriage license, you still gotta prove you're married, in some cases.
That's correct. If you have
Yeah,
remarried or divorced too, and you've changed your name with Social Security
yeah.
or your driver's license, we ask for all that documentation up front because it makes the process go smoother for you. If we can make sure when you get to the settlement table that your names are spelled correctly or the socials for your 1099s, all of that information, so that way we have it all in the forefront to avoid any potential issues in the background.
And that's what, and people are like, well, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do it? Why do I do it? I'm like, well, you just have to. And I'll tell people all the time, I'm like, look, the mortgage process and the closing process sometimes feels like a proctology exam while you're getting a root canal.
Yep, everything but your DNA.
But at the end of the day, it's done to protect you.
Yeah, absolutely. We
Uh,
want to make sure everybody's taken care of and protected by far. It's a lot of information that goes out there.
it is. And I am beyond grateful for what y'all do. And I do enjoy the training too, but let's not blow Terry's head up too much.
We love
I'm
Terry and all of his bow ties. If you get the opportunity to check out one of his bow ties, absolutely.
Cannot wait to see which one shows up for the Christmas party.
I was thinking the same thing earlier this week.
Yeah. Are you going to be in town for that?
I won't this year. We have some other plans going on. I was fortunate enough that I got to attend Employee Appreciation Day and be with my Eagle Title family in June, and we had an incredible time, and it was good to see everybody.
Nice.
I won't make it this year, but I'll probably make it next year, hoping to.
It'll be nice to finally meet you in person.
Yeah, likewise.
And, but you do such an amazing job that nobody knew you weren't sitting right here in Annapolis.
Yep. Yep. I have clocks. I have my Tennessee time clocks, and I have my Maryland time clocks, and I
Mm.
log on the same time my girls log on. I just want to make sure that, I'm a part of that team and that I can support them as much as possible, even though I am working from home full time. I've been working from home for about 4+ years from
Yeah.
home, thanks to Eagle, and being able to keep my job during our PCS. But yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm giving it my all, because I know the girls are in the office and we're doing it all for you guys.
And again, and you're in a rare position too, because very few spouses get to keep their job and telecommute from their new station. Very few.
Absolutely. I don't take it for granted one bit. And I tell them all the time, I am so grateful. When we got those orders, and I had just started with Eagle
Yeah.
Title, and shortly after, I would say within 6 to 8 months, my husband was like, wow, we have orders back to California. And actually, it was Okinawa or California. And I said, I'm not going to Okinawa. But yeah, I was devastated. And when Brad and Eagle told me that they would love for me to stay on, it was the best feeling ever. It made me feel incredible that I could continue to do something that I absolutely love and get to do that for an amazing company, work with amazing people, and just it was the best. Not having to constantly change careers or figure out what's next or how are we going to do this, or having to job hunt every time you PCS.
Yes.
It was the best thing. So
I mean, I was lucky because when my ex so he was in the Navy when we started dating. I worked for a defense contractor. And then when he went to law school, my company moved me to the DC office from Virginia Beach. And then the month before my daughter was born, they moved my office to my house. And I swear it was so that I didn't take maternity leave, because they knew I was writing software. They knew if there was a problem, I was going to log in and fix it.
yeah.
They were right. They were absolutely right. And they're like, we'll do this temporarily. Well, that lasted for 7 years until I decided it was time for a new career.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And that was even with us PCS and back to Norfolk from DC. And I was literally 5 miles from the office and went by there every Friday morning to drop off my timesheet and left. And that was it.
That was it.
That was
That
it.
was
I'm
it.
like, there's no need to be here.
I
None.
think, honestly, I will say COVID was a terrible time for everybody navigating this new norm for that short time. But I do remember Taylor he was on a mission when everything had happened, and he was coming home, and they said you were going to have to quarantine because my husband was coming home from overseas. And I was just like, what am I going to do? And they were like, you're going to have to work from home full time. And it's different than just taking your laptop home at night and working selectively as opposed to going full blown. And I just remember we had a fifth wheel in the driveway, our camping fifth wheel. And I looked at my husband and I said, we're setting up my mobile workstation. And the office they laughed. It was hilarious because I was literally working out in my camper, in my fifth wheel in my driveway. I would get out every morning and go to the fifth wheel, and I would be in there working dusk till dawn during COVID. And I made it work, and that was it. As military spouses, we make it work. We just do what needs to be done.
And that's it. That's the one thing that I would say is consistent across the board with everyone I've met it's not like you sit back and go, oh my God, woe is me. It's like, all right, let's do this.
You adapt and
And
overcome.
because it's not a choice. I mean, your choice is break your family up, and end the marriage so you can go do something else, or you figure it out so you can keep it together.
Yeah.
And, because my ex and I were together for 27 years. There was a problem there in the beginning. So, but it is what it is. Wish him all the best. And he's still a great father. So we'll never say anything negative. But
I will say right now, Taylor is actually stationed in Fort Meade after our orders from California, and he came home from his last deployment. He was only supposed to have about 12 months left before retirement. And there was a little bit of a hiccup because he had to re-enlist that 7 months to make it to 20. But in order to do so, he had to take orders, which then to do that, they put him back in Maryland. So Taylor actually had PCSed back to Maryland when he came home from his last deployment, but the kids and I had already said, we're coming here. So we've been living separate but apart, separate and apart for probably the last year and some change, but he's due home in just a few short months, and it's been tough. We've been fortunate that he gets to come home every month. He's burning through all of that leave time right now.
yeah.
But FaceTime and the power of technology has been incredible for us.
It's so different now because when my ex and I were dating and he was in the Navy, you wrote the letters and you had to number them so that he would know
Yeah.
which order to read them in. And I mean, there was no FaceTime, there was no email. It was letters. And then when they got to a certain port, they could call collect.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, this is gonna be expensive.
Yeah.
But you want to talk to them so bad, but then you're like, cha-ching, 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 cha-ching.
Yeah.
And now with iPhones and Zoom calls and Skype and even Facebook Messenger and Instagram Messenger, it's like, no, it's not the same thing, but it's better than what it was 20 years ago.
Absolutely. Taylor deployed 2 days after Mackenzie was born in 2011. And that was right about the time that BlackBerry phones started coming out and you had email capability. And I
Ooh,
said that was like the one thing, that big square phone. And I was like, man, full emails. I was so grateful for that. And Skype.
yeah.
Skype was the thing in 2011. And that allowed Taylor, where he was at, to be able to call us Skype. And it's just since evolved, which is great. Now Taylor gets to FaceTime and be at all of the football games and practices for the kids. So
That's
great.
awesome. You're like, hey, honey, we're doing football practice.
Yeah, here you go.
And you're like, hey, watch this.
Yeah.
But that's so cool, though, that he wants to be that involved and not missing out and going, well, I'm in Maryland. Give me the highlights.
Yep. Last
Um,
night we had dinner. He was on FaceTime eating his dinner in Maryland. We were at our kitchen table here, the kids and I eating dinner. And it's like we had a full family meal, even though he was just on FaceTime. But I mean, we talk about our highs and lows, we talk
Yeah.
about our days. We talk every morning, every night. He's involved in everything, and he'll be home soon. So we're waiting.
I love how y'all make that work.
That's
Because
what
that's phenomenal. A lot of people don't do that. And yeah, so in 2011, was he over in Iraq and Afghanistan? Right.
I think that deployment was Iraq and Afghanistan. Taylor has been deployed in the 18 years that the 17 and a half going on 18 that we've been married. He's just finished his 7th deployment. So I will say Taylor and I have probably been apart about half of our marriage. But with technology, we make it work, between workups, missions, deployments, an MOS change when he changed what he was doing in the Marine Corps, sent him back to school for another 3 to 4 months. I mean, you make do with what you have. And when you have a strong knit family, you can get through it. You can. You just have to be flexible and just go with it and just make the most of it.
That's awesome. Well,
Thank you.
I'm super happy for you that you're going to have him home soon
Wait.
and you can finally just have a post-military life. Just don't, I will say this, there's an adjustment period. So
I've heard. I've got I'm a little bit anxious because it's going to be
yeah,
new. And I think maybe I'm more anxious for him though, because I am already into my career and, I've been settled with the kids and now he's going to be transitioning. So I want to make the best for him, the transition, and making sure he has resources that's needed for, the morale to continue whatever
yeah,
morale he can, because we aren't super close to a military base. So that military community and family here is a little bit smaller, but definitely trying to get, some outreach networking, some, resources for him to continue, you know, being a part of what he's still been a part of the last 20 years. So that's my
and I
biggest
will say
focus.
this, just be patient.
Yes, I like that.
Because like with my ex, he was an attorney. So it was 9 to 5 job, no big deal, never deployed in the Coast Guard.
Oh,
Except for the only time it was even overtime was 9/11. And when we were stationed in Norfolk, he was a Marine safety officer. So he had to leave a birthday party once or twice. Okay. We didn't have the same struggles. We did the deployments when he was in the Navy, but not when we were married. But I've had a lot of friends that when they come out, they almost go through identity crisis. It's like, who am I? And so that's where you as a spouse, now you get to take on a whole different role of support and loving them through the process. And you go through a change too, because you're no longer that active military spouse. And life changes for all of y'all.
yeah. It's going to
And
be an adjustment.
yes, but the more you talk, the more you communicate, the more you work through it, y'all are going to do great. And
I'm
then
excited. I'm ready. I I am nervous for what lies ahead, but I know it's nothing that we can't handle, especially 18 years doing this has
it's
just, yeah, prepared us for this moment.
you're gonna do great. You're gonna do great. Y'all have overcome so much that this is be like, that was a walk in the park.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I really truly appreciate you doing this with me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And I really appreciate, just getting to know you better. And it's like I said, we've been working together now for what, 8 or 9 years? And I'm like, and then they're like, oh yeah, she's in Tennessee. I'm like, wait, what?
A few agents recently have come to catch on that I am actually not in the office, that I am in a whole nother state. And it's kind of a surprise too. I love talking with these buyers and these sellers, and
Yeah.
and then they find out that I can relate to some of these military moves and what they're going through, and letting them know, kind of an idea of what's going to come down the pipeline for them, and just being able to relate. I love having that. And it's always a little surprise when they find out, oh, are you going to be at settlement? And I'm like, well, not me personally.
Yeah, but
But
you can see Bowtie Man.
yep, you get to see Terry Liff himself.
The one and only. So anyway, I do appreciate you and everything Eagle does. It is absolutely phenomenal and y'all make my job so much easier. So thank you.
Thank you. We love having you. We love working with your clients. We couldn't do this without you guys. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I hope you have a wonderful day and hope
As
to
well.
see you in person here one day soon.
I will make it there. Maybe I think we have our the golf party. The golf party is
Yes.
what we do. Maybe we'll do
Yes.
kickoff, spring kickoff. So
That's always
the
so much
master's
fun.
party. Yep. Our master's party is awesome. So
Yeah. All right. Well, have a wonderful day.
thank you as well. Bye
All right.
bye.
Bye-bye.